welcome to the Storage Auction System podcast. Today, I'm going to be outlining how I choose good storage auctions. Storage auctions are a huge waste of time. Bidding on storage auction units is just like playing blackjack. These are just a couple of the comments I've seen online recently about storage auctions. There are so many new people jumping into storage auctions without knowing what they're doing that I'm honestly not surprised people are getting hostile. The truth is that these statements are accurate, at least for the most part. Storage auctions can be the world's biggest waste of time, and it can be a lot like gambling if, and this is a big if, you just go to any and every storage auction without trying to qualify the auctions first. New buyers get so excited about making their fortune in storage auctions that they just go online or in the local newspaper, pick out the first auction they come to, take a day off of work, and go. If they're lucky, they'll have picked an auction with nothing but trash and walk away empty-handed. Now you say, wait, that's lucky? You better believe it, because the worst thing that could happen is that they find a great unit and actually make a little money off of it. Again, you might say, that doesn't sound so bad. It's not just bad, it's terrible, because they'll think that's how it's supposed to be done. You just go pick out any old storage auction, show up, and start rolling in the dough. Nothing could be further from the truth, and the sooner you learn that all storage auctions are not created equal, the sooner you'll actually start making consistently good money. Many, maybe even most, storage auctions have 90+% trash that no one wants and can't provide more than a few dollars, if any, of profit. That means that most storage auctions are going to waste your time, and time is your most precious commodity. Time should be valuable to anyone in the storage auction business, but it's especially important to people like me who have a limited amount of it that we can commit to attending storage auctions. To make the storage auction business worthwhile, read profitable, for me, I have to maximize the quality of the unit's contents and minimize the amount of time I actually spend at auctions. To accomplish this, I developed a series of rules of thumb for qualifying storage auctions and finding the best units. Today, I'll talk about rule number 1. Rule number 1 is go to the money. Some of the things you see on the hit TV show Storage Wars and Auction Hunters are definitely made for television, so I can't really recommend either show as a tutorial on how to get rich at storage auctions. However, both shows are teaching you at least one very valuable lesson, and it happens each and every episode. Did you catch it? If not, the lesson is this. The area that the storage auction is located in is a very important piece of information. Both shows begin by introducing the area. For example, they'll say, today we're in Newport Beach. This is one of my favorite areas for an auction because this place is loaded with retirees, and they always have great stuff such as antiques and collectibles. Now, they not only know their demographics, but they also know what kind of stuff their targeted groups are likely to own. That info is huge. I can't emphasize it enough. You might say, why? Well, because if you don't know that type of information, then you'll be walking into a storage auction blind, and then you could only rely on luck to bring you a good unit. Many an afternoon was wasted waiting on luck to show up. You can greatly increase your chances of getting good stuff at the storage auctions by evaluating the areas where the storage facility is located. Now you might ask, why does that work? Well, I spent nearly 10 years as the owner and manager of 2 storage facilities, and I can tell you for a fact that almost all of the tenants in any given facility live or work in the immediate area surrounding the facility. You might ask, why? Well, because the number one reason people choose a facility is that it is convenient to their home or office. If 2 facilities are right across the street from each other, then things like price or number of security cameras certainly come into play. But no one would choose a facility that is 15 miles from their house over one that's 2 minutes from their house for $10 a month cheaper rent. They want to be able to access their stuff quickly and easily. So convenience wins every time. That is what makes the area around a facility such a good indicator of the storage unit contents. Okay, so now you're probably somewhat convinced that the area around the facility is a reasonable gauge of whether or not there's good stuff in the units. But before you start qualifying the auctions, you need to know what good stuff is and who would have it. So what are you looking for? You're looking for good stuff. But how do you define good stuff? Something of value that is highly resellable. Well, like what? First on this list, the thing that's easiest to turn into cash is going to be jewelry, gold, diamonds, etc. Antiques and collectibles certainly on the list. High-end modern electronics, easily resellable, iPods, things of that nature. High-end furniture, there's always a market for good furniture. It's easy to resell. And tools would probably round out the list of things that, if you polled professional storage auction buyers rather, what would you want to find? Those 5 segments would be what they'd want to find. Okay, so now you know what you want, but you also need to know what you don't want. The hardest things to sell, most likely to be junk, that would start off top of the list. Definitely going to be household items. So many people in storage units are storing things from moving, and for some reason, people will keep their diamonds and gold for the most part, but they will store their toilet paper almost every single time. Why they're storing their toilet paper, I don't know, but they're in tons of units and they're absolute junk, just a hassle you have to throw away. So low-end old electronics. If I have thrown away one CRT, television style computer monitor, I've thrown away 1,000 of them. They're absolute junk. No one will buy them. You can't get rid of them. And I hate to see them every time in a storage unit because I know it's going to be a huge burden. Another thing is low-end damaged or broken furniture. This is a constant as well. You're going to see the $99 desk from Target that's made out of particle board. Maybe it would serve its purpose in your kid's room, but it is absolute junk. You can't even get rid of it. You just have to throw it away. Clothing definitely is on that list as well. There may be some caveats to clothing because it depends on what niche you're trying to service by buying things at storage auctions. A resale shop, a consignment shop, you may have some success with, but for the most part, all clothing that you find is going to be junk and just thrown away. And last but not least, the bane of a storage auction buyer's existence is mattresses and bedding. I can promise you that if you ask storage auction professionals, what is the one thing if you saw in a unit that would make you turn away from it and just not bid on it, even if you see some good stuff that you like, it's going to be mattresses. It's the hardest thing to get rid of. You cannot sell them legally, no matter how good of condition they're in. They're very big, very bulky, very hard to move, and you have to pay almost every single time to get rid of them. So now you know things that you do and you do not want. The next thing you have to think about, and this is really important, is you have to think about which segments or which demographics would own the items that you do or do not want. As you heard me listing off the items, the groups associated with these items may have jumped right off the page at you. You may have thought, who owns antiques and collectibles? Maybe that's obvious, but I want to detail a few of these just so we can make sure we're on the same page. Who would likely own antiques and collectibles? Well, 2 groups for the most part: rich people and old people. Rich old people obviously would be the best combination for this category, but it would be easy to discount people who don't have money. The truth is that older people of any income level can own collectibles almost by default. Chances are, if you bought something 40 plus years ago, someone is collecting that item today. You may not have even had to have bought it. You could have just found it. Maybe you got it in a cereal box. Those things can be worth money. So if you were looking for collectibles or antiques, don't just necessarily focus on the rich part of town. Look for neighborhoods or areas that have a large concentration of people 50 plus years of age. Now, who would be most likely to own high-end modern electronics? Now, you may go down the list of all these good things and say rich people, rich people, rich people. Uh, First of all, rich people rarely store their items in storage units. So it's really important that you don't necessarily count on that segment of the population. But also, rich people are generally older people and they usually aren't as tech savvy. So they're not, honestly, not as likely to have high end electronics sitting in a storage unit. So who would? Well, the two biggest buyers for these items are, young yuppie couples with high disposable incomes and bachelors. Bachelors may actually be my favorite storage auction owners because they usually have good stuff and they're super forgetful, so their stuff gets sold at auction all the time. You can tell a bachelor's unit instantly, and you kind of laugh to yourself thinking, these guys just forgot to pay their storage is probably what happened. But actually, kind of a side note here, my best experience with the storage units are units that are owned by gay men. They always have great stuff. They have really good taste. They always take great care of it. They're super organized. They're great at packing a storage unit. But I will say, you probably want to be careful in this area because the most awkward conversation you may ever have with somebody is, hey, where do all the gay guys live around here? So anyway, on the other side of the coin, you have to think about who's likely to own, low-end electronics. Who's likely to have a storage unit just filled with clothes and household items and just worthless junk? Obviously, you're going to first look at the bad or the poor sides of town. You know, but places where young families may be, single mothers, people that would not have had the chance to accumulate anything of real value, just day-to-day type living, people without any type of disposable income. When they pack things, it's going to be, again, low-end items that are very hard to resell and won't bring a lot of profit. Now, does all of this mean you'll always get a good unit when you attend storage auctions in the good part of town? Absolutely not. In fact, the biggest loss I ever took at a storage auction was in what I would consider the best part of town. Now, does it mean that there's nothing but trash units in the bad part of town? No. I actually saw a guy make $10,000 on a unit he bought in what I would consider to be the starkest part of the ghetto. But both of those situations are the exception and not the rule. We talked a little bit earlier about storage auctions being like gambling, and the truth is there is chance involved in the storage auction business. You don't know exactly what's in each storage unit before you buy it. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad, but the key is to qualify the units or qualify the auctions so you can eliminate much of the risk and the chance, so much so that it almost isn't a factor. Stop wasting your time in high risk, low reward areas. I can specifically point to the time in my storage auction career where, it was the turning point. Before I used critical thinking in the evaluation process and when I was qualifying units, I just attend any storage auction I could go to without any regard for my time. I'd get really frustrated when I'd go to auction after auction and come away empty-handed. And, in the beginning, I'd look at 100 units to buy one, and only 1 out of 10 of those would be anything that of any value. So think of all the time I wasted. Now, I'd be very surprised if I buy more than 1 or 2 out of 10 that I don't make a profit on. And that's better than 95% of the people out there buying storage units. And I attribute that success to using qualification or qualifying storage auctions. Now I don't waste my time. I make a profit more regularly, and it's a more enjoyable all-around business. So do yourself a favor and start applying what we've learned here today, and go to our website at www.storageauctionsystem.com and download the free PDF that not only includes what we've learned here, but also 2 more practical steps in qualifying storage auctions. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the show. And hey, if you'd like to receive live updates from actual storage auctions we're attending, follow us on Twitter at Auction Storage, or join us on Facebook at Storage Auction System. Thanks again, and remember to join us next time on the Storage Auction System Podcast.